Well, hey everyone, happy Thursday. Welcome to So What, the Marketing Analytics and Insights live show. I am Katie. Chris is traveling, John is somewhere, but today I am joined by maybe, I think, did you say your name was Clark?
Dun, 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 dun. I don't want to violate the copyright laws of playing John Williams' hit, but yeah, I figured I could wear my costume, rather than just get 2 hours Halloween evening out of it. I could, get one more play out of it.
I mean, I love it. I am here for a Halloween costume. I usually go big on Halloween. I used to when I worked in an office, I would always dress up. But, now that it's just me by myself in my house with my dog, she really doesn't care what I do.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's partially a marketing creative thing of just like costumes are a challenge. It's kind of like what kind of story can you tell? What can you pull off? And then the thing
Yeah.
for me that has been just crazy is I got into it heavy with my kids.
Oh,
Starting from
sure.
when they were babies, we would get them dressed up as stuff. And so now they're both teenagers, and so I have all these pictures of all these ridiculous costumes over the years, which is just fantastic. It kind of keeps me going. So yeah, I'm all for a little bit of Halloween creative muscle exercise. So looking forward to it.
Well, and our buddy Brian says he's wearing his full Transformer costume right now, working at home by himself. He said, just kidding, but I don't think he is. I think
Yeah,
he's
right.
being very serious.
He's
I'm
saying
going to
there's
take
like
that one.
Autobots roll out.
So today on this week's live stream, in the spirit of spooky season, we're talking about data horror stories. And so we asked our Analytics for Marketers Slack community, which is free to join, trustinsights.ai/analytics for marketers. And John, you also posted on LinkedIn asking people for their data horror stories. And unsurprisingly, we want to be able to tie this back to something like the 6C uh, data quality framework. So let me see. I'm going to make this a little bit easier to see. There we go. So the 6 C's of data quality are clean, complete, comprehensive, calculable, chosen, and credible. So, John, you did the due diligence of collecting a bunch of these horror stories. So let's talk about some of them. What were some of the better stories that you got?
Yeah, well, unsurprisingly, many people were reticent to share tales of stuff that they've really screwed up and crashed and burned. So I did get a couple that were in there, and thankfully, at least I'm already gonna admit to a bunch of disasters. So I have a trove of burning the whole village kind of tales that I can throw out here. I had 8 that came down. I don't know. We didn't get to do as much of a rundown. How many? Do you want me to just give a quick overview of them, and you want to run down through the stack first, or how do you want to roll it?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm open because basically, I think what I got from collecting the stories was, okay, we're not alone. A lot of people have these stories. But I think where people find challenges with these types of things is, so I have these stories, but what do I do about it? So I'm happy to have you just sort of, go for it because when we get towards the middle of the show, I actually have a little bit of the solutioning. But first we got to set the stage. Like, what are the problems?
All right, that sounds good. So I've got 8 tales. We'll start at the bottom, number
Okay.
8, the least horrifying of the batch. And this is for all marketers. Everybody loves this when you sweat when you hit that send button. You're sitting there with the email marketing automation and you've checked it a dozen times and you click the button and you know 15, 20 minutes go by. Okay, you've moved on to the next thing. You're all good. And then suddenly the emails start coming in that, oh, the link in this message is bad. And so what are you going to do about that? And if you've just mailed 60,000, 250,000 addresses, you've now created, a huge mass of inbound customer service complaints and just everything across the board. Who knows how much damage you can do? So that's the first tale of panic right there. And usually it comes down to unclean, right? It's just a matter of somebody broke something somewhere along the way. So that was the stories that came in. That was enough to be frightening, but was the bottom of the list.
Let's see if this works. I feel like this deserves a sound effect.
we're
There you
not
go.
getting we're not getting the clunk that we need, or at least it's not coming through to my side. But
Oh, man, that's alright.
that's definitely a sad trombone. I gotta see on the board if I do. I should have a yeah. Did that come through? If I yeah, there we go.
There you go. Um,
Okay, we'll save the
we'll
save
save
that.
the sound effects for another time.
So
No,
that
and I feel like that's such a relatable thing, and this is why, we've talked about in other past episodes of the live stream and the podcast and pretty much anything, people will listen to us on. Don't QA your own stuff. You're gonna look at it 10 times, and that 11th time is when someone else is gonna look at it and go, "Oh, I see the mistake immediately." That happens to me all the time because we move too fast, we think we did the right thing, we click on it, we have 8,000 tabs open, but to your point, then the shameful, "Hey, I clicked on your link and it goes to a 404," or, "Hey, I clicked on your link and I don't know if you want it to go to that picture of you from your summer vacation," or, "Hey, I clicked on your link and nothing happened."
yeah, yeah, it's just nothing but pain comes from that outgoing run there. And I think another thing with this is you hit a great point in that you've got to have a process that has secondary validation. Just somebody else
Mhm,
has to do it, and over time, pick out somebody in your org. Like I'll give a shout out to Erica Halloran, who I haven't worked with in over a decade, but she was the one person that everybody knew in the company that it didn't matter. It could go through 5 people who none of them found any mistakes, and it would go to
mhm.
her and she'd find 3 mistakes in the thing. She was just, there are some people that are born that have that skill set and the eye for that kind of work. And so you want to find some of those people and then start buying them lunch or pizza or whatever it takes to, get them to help out. But find the experts and roll with those folks because that's, the easy way to avoid that train wreck as it comes along.
And I would say people are gonna ask the question of, "Well, can't I just use generative AI to do proofreading, and test?" You can, but with the caveat that it's going to also miss obvious things. I, usually try to run a lot of my writing through, like, basic spell checking and, sentence structure, grammar, that kind of stuff, but AI always misses something because it's not human. And so, things that it versus is, like it won't correct those things necessarily. Not because it's not looking for grammatically correct, but it's not so blatantly wrong that it's not going to pick it up. So you're still going to publish things with errors if you don't have that human intervention. And so, that's the case for, you still need a human doing that. You can build really elaborate prompts to catch all that stuff, but I would say you still need a human to go through and make sure that, links are working, uh, UTM tracking codes are set up correctly and being caught, that your, tag manager or Adobe Analytics is set up correctly. Like, there's a whole bunch that goes into that one little link being in your email.
Absolutely. All right. So in at number 7, I have having to install an Oracle database to be ready for tomorrow. So this was a project thing where there was a group of people going off to an event in Chicago, and they knew that they basically had to have 2 or 3 demo systems built, to go there. But the problem was they hadn't calculated that the demo software had so much data in it that it would actually take about 2 days to build the machines to do the demo. So when they showed up the day before the event and started working, they had to work all through the day. And, by 6 p.m. that night, they were like, oh, wait a minute. No, we're still like not even half installed on these machines. And so the team had to stay up through the night, all the way through till the next morning. And it was literally a matter of packing a bunch of laptops in a bag and somebody like driving them to the airport to meet the team as they were flying out because they weren't able to build the machines, in time. Normally you would want to have them built at least 2 days ahead of a time so that the team could then, play with the machines, make sure everything's working, get used to it. But yeah, this was and I filed that one under not calculable. You need to figure out like how much data you've got, how long does it take to process, how long does it take to run reports or whatever. Because if you have just way too much data, it's not in the right format, and it takes 10x what you thought it would do to get the job done, you're going to get yourself in another train wreck.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack with that. I agree. I think that that's calculable. That's also complete. Um, and probably comprehensive and probably credible and probably clean. So let's just say that that one hits all the marks. And so if that's only number 7, I'm nervous for what's to come, but that's definitely, a case for, I know this is going to come as a huge shock to you, John, but the 5 Ps could have helped. And within the process P is when you would have outlined, so we know we need these people. The process is this. Let's back into a work back plan and a timeline. Oh, we probably need more than 24 hours. And I'm not shaming whoever it is that submitted this story. Things happen. People ask for last minute crazy banana stuff all the time. I get that. That one to me, yeah, if that's number 7, I'm terrified for what's to come.
Well, the good, that's only, and in fact, they actually did get the gear there. So, but yeah, it's the landings get worse as we go here. So in at, what are we at, number 6 right
6.
now. This one is more, there are a bunch of different stories that fell under this category. And anybody who's done marketing ops in a smaller org has done this. This is just, the spreadsheet is off by only 1 row, right? So this is, you've got this thing where you've got a spreadsheet and you're trying to clean it up to load maybe into your email system or for some kind of survey, but whatever. You're basically massaging a spreadsheet, right? Like that's the thing. And everybody always does this where they grab the columns that they want to sort and they miss one of them, and then they do the sort, and now that last column stays in the order it was in, but everything else gets shuffled. So now you've polluted the data across the board. And this came up a dozen different ways, but one that comes over multiple times is this where it gets shuffled. And so you do your email blast and it goes out to the email address, but the first names are all off by 1. So nobody gets the right first name in their message, right? And so the link one is is bad, but you can fix the link. And in fact, today on better email systems, you can update a link and that will just work. But something like this, you've polluted the whole data pile. And so everybody gets a bad email address and it just looks horrible for everybody. And one upside of this one I did here, this was the number 1 driver for people to switch to CRM systems. This is something where this happened one too many times. And then they finally said, no, we just need, whatever our CRM is to automatically dump the data into our email system so that it's not a manual process and we, remove all chance for error. But so yeah, the spreadsheet jockeying coming in at number 6.
I remember a friend of mine telling me about his wife's job. She worked in marketing for a large grocery store chain in New England. And he said that he was always amazed at her ability to basically wrangle her spreadsheet, because if she was in there was so many columns and it covered so many things, and it was all in one sheet. And so you had all of the hidden columns, and then you had things that were locked and you couldn't see, all in one sheet. And so she was in the triple letters. So once you go A through Z, it goes AA through ZZ. And then you start to get into and it just bonkers beyond my ability to comprehend how you can do your job with something that big. And to me, that kind of falls under, spreadsheets when they get that big and unwieldy fall under, the comprehensive, must cover the question being asked. That's too much data. How can you answer a question with that much data?
Yeah, you should never, if you've got anything and you're going beyond ZZ, that needs to be in a database. That's what databases are made for. A spreadsheet is not a database. You gotta get out of that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. All right. So at number 5, this we've seen hands-on with a bunch of people. It's basically your AI project failed. You wanted to do something with AI, but then you went through all the hassle of building the thing. You use your data and you just output is all garbage. Everything, it kind of gives you hallucinations, so everything is just fake and false or looks bad. But yeah, that one came up many times, and that one was a little bit of it wasn't the scariest ones because a lot of these are pilot projects and they're, new things that people are trying to do. So the stakes were kind of low, but for everybody that does have a crash and burn, now your ability to get selected to do the next really crazy pilot project, goes to zero as you tank that. So, but yeah, you've seen this firsthand too with a bunch of stuff. What's your take on this one here?
Well, I'm going to tap into my spooky side and be a fortune teller for a second and say that if people stick around, there may be a solution to that exact problem if they want to see what it is, which is at trustinsights.ai/AI ready data quality audit. That's the demo we're going to do shortly. But this is what we talk about a lot. And by no means are we the only ones to talk about this. I feel like it's a well known thing that AI is going to amplify the things that are wrong. It's not going to fix them unless that is your goal. So really it's going to say this thing is wrong, so I'm just going to run with it. It's not going to look at your data and go, "You know what? They could do better or they could be giving me something else," unless you're prompting it to do that exact thing. So if you're I don't know, let's say if you're using your marketing automation, you know, export from, your Salesforce system, and you want to find out like how many clicks led to conversions, but you don't have conversions set up, it's not going to magically make that happen. Or if your data was corrupted for 3 days that month and you weren't aware of it, and so you're missing that information, like it's not going to guess and be like, "Hey, I wonder what happened on those days. Let me just fill it in for you." It's going to amplify. And what is it that Chris says? That AI is a very overeager intern who's like a people pleaser. And so it's going to try to give you the answer regardless of how bad the data is. And so you have to work on that data quality before you give it to AI. It's just that's just a it's a non-starter. If you haven't done any kind of data quality checks first, don't let AI, just go ahead and make decisions.
That sounds good. So at number 4 I was not expecting this. Everything that I had originally run with was, stuff where we're handling the data. You kind of get data and something gets screwed up. But there were a ton of votes that just came in for data breach.
Mhm.
They were somebody broke in, took the data, and everything went south from there. I don't know. The big thing with that is like that's data security. That's kind of a whole, that's not along the lines of anything that we do directly. There's
Right.
a whole bunch of vendors that you work with to kind of lock up your website, lock up your internal IT. But yeah, I can see how that scares the hell out of people.
Oh, for sure. And so to your point, John, we don't do that work specifically, but we do have a framework that we would recommend to people to at least start thinking about it. And this isn't going to replace any kind of, data privacy or governance, but we recommend the RAFT. So responsible, accountable. Oh gosh, I should probably know what they all stand for. And now I'm putting myself on the spot and exposing myself. Uh, but ideally, the idea is that if you don't have any kind of policy in place, and I highly recommend that you work with a proper legal team to put that kind of thing in place. Um, RAFT is at least going to get you started to think about it. So it's respect. Here we go: respect, accountability, fairness, and transparency. And so we frame it in terms of responsible AI use, but I've also used it to think about data privacy, because really, when you go through all of those steps, it's how are we asking people to give us data? Are we being clear about how the data is being collected? Are we being transparent? Would we want our data collected in that way? How are we securing that data? And a lot of these systems, so if you build like a contact form in WordPress or in HubSpot, a lot of them have some of those security controls built in. Don't skip them just because you think it's going to be annoying to, the end user to have to check "I'm not a robot" or to fill in those like, 6 scrambled letters to validate who they are. Those are there for a reason. So you're right. It doesn't fall into data quality specifically, but data breaches are awful. And people can inject false data into your data, which then does become a data quality issue.
Yeah, that was like, we were kind of in one genre of horror movie, and somebody I was like, oh yeah, that's not in our thing, but man, that is absolutely horrible over there too. That is
It's the Freddy versus Jason crossover.
it's yeah,
You don't wanna see it coming.
it just it's a buzzsaw when it comes at you. No one survives that. Okay, it's coming in at number 3. Now we're getting into the big guns. This is one I'm knock on wood, I've never done this one, so I kind of am like wearing the badge of like, oh, this is good. But the mailing the blacklist, like this comes up all the time where you've got your email system, and for some reason on some day somebody messes up, and they or in loading too, they'll do this where there's like that list over there of like, okay, here's the people that said they're going to sue us and they hate us, and the crazies are always in that pile over there. And for some
Mhm.
reason, somebody grabs that and throws it right into the next mailing so that they get the, $5 off coupon. And those you always hear about from customer service. Like customer service explodes immediately because those people are just, for some reason they can't take one extra email. But so yeah, again, I was kind of psyched that I was like, yeah, no, that was one firecracker I've never lit myself, but that's definitely one that's a whole lot of pain when that happens.
Well, I mean, we can think about it this way, and this is something that happens to a lot of people when they think about their email hygiene. So it falls under clean, it falls under complete. Sometimes someone's unsub link just stops working. And so you think you've unsubscribed to something, and they're not aware that you've unsubscribed. And they're sending out their weekly emails or whatever, and you keep getting the email. That is a data quality issue on their side because they don't have a clean list of people who have opted in. They don't have a complete set of people who've opted out. So that is a data quality issue. And it goes back to sort of number 8, I think it was, where testing the links, making sure that things like an unsub works. As an end user, I mean, this, there is nothing more frustrating than unsubscribing from something multiple times and having it continue to show up. It's, you know, damaging to the reputation for the brand. It's damaging to their email deliverability, and it's really poor data quality on their side. So there's a lot of things wrong with that. So I would say it's not even as, drastic as sending to the wrong list. Like just not even having a clean unsubscribe process is a huge data quality issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's in most cases, it's like those people are just a waste of resources in every, way and form. I mean, they're raising their hand saying, don't talk to me. So if you ever have to talk to them,
Mhm.
it's a waste of time. And there's never a chance of them ever buying anything. So yeah, that's like uh, just playing with quicksand. You're going to get stuck over there, which is another
Mhm.
horrible thing, which is really overrated. But I'm getting pulled aside on quicksand.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, I mean, when we were growing up, how dangerous did we think quicksand would be when we were adults?
Yeah, like every TV show,
Everywhere.
there
Yeah.
was one quicksand episode that was just like an easy target. Um, but yeah, no, there's not much quicksand in New England, that's for sure.
Nope. I think we're okay.
All right, so coming at number 2. Now, this one was interesting because I mean, it's not urban legend, it was real. I guess the thing with this one was there were tons of people that it happened to that pointed it out, but actually it doesn't happen as much in current state of affairs. Like people who had this problem in the last 3 or 4 years were very few, but there were tons of people that had it, which is just these backups don't work. Like something
Mm,
goes south, and so, you send somebody off to grab the offsite backup of whatever, and you find out that, the kid next door has been using them as a magnet, or, the tapes got flooded, or another one too of like systems saying the backups are running, but they're not actually running. So
mhm,
that whole idea, and even too, you'd see family members, normal people with this, with like, their computer gets hit with a virus or something weird happens, a hard drive crashes, and they just have no backups of any kind anywhere. And so they're like back to zero, complete
mhm.
clean slate. So yeah, obvious process, huge process thing, right? Like you've got to
Yep.
have a backup process. And of course, like I said, now with everything in the cloud, people tend to trust the cloud to do it. And I get that. It's a lot of work and it's a pain to do backup. So if you want to trust the cloud, I mean, these are huge companies. It is their job. I have heard occasionally really weird stories of something getting lost here and there, but not that often. Um, but yeah, if you do take a backup, and even if it's just your time machine on Apple. Just like go in there once in a while and just open up a file from 3 weeks ago just to make sure that if you lost something, you can get to it. Because yeah, there's kind of one of the top nightmares is just waking up to a blank computer and having lost everything.
And I think that, in terms of data quality and process, to your point, you know, we as consumers and as businesses have become very reliant on third party tools to be doing that work for us. And so in terms of our data quality and, the credibility, and it must be collected in a valid way, it must be, complete. We need to make sure that we understand if we're using a third party tool like a CRM or marketing automation, what are their backup policies? So we do some backup of our own data at Trust Insights, but we're a small team. And if Chris is doing backups, I couldn't tell you where they live. So that is a huge data quality issue for us that we need to address when he's back from wherever he is. But it's true for a lot of companies. They don't know if there is a backup, where it lives, who has access to it, what's on it, how much is being backed up, is it being overwritten every 30 days, or is it completely comprehensive of everything you've ever done? And those are really good questions to ask. So when you're thinking about data backups, data quality, you can ask all of the 6C questions like, is it going to be clean when I get it? Is it going to be a one for one? Is it going to be complete? Is it going to be comprehensive? And so on and so forth. Because what's the point of having a backup if you can't use it when you need it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's when you need it, man, you bet it's got to be there. That's just a no fail thing. I will give a shout out for WP Engine, our website provider. We've used them for years. Chris and I have both been big fans of theirs. And, just daily backup is just part of the thing. Kind of anything tanks, you can just go back there and click a button and say, make it like it was yesterday. And,
Mhm.
that kind of SaaS service is a wonderful thing. It's worth the extra bucks to get that and go. All right. So at number one, this was the biggest one. This was the complete nuclear blowout. I know this is nail biting here.
I'm nervous.
So this is like an old marketing case study that was around. So it was basically a company that did holiday promotions and sales. The holiday period was their greatest point of sales. It made the year for them for the whole year. It was catalog mailing. So, one of these companies where they're going to print up a couple million catalogs, drop them in the mail, again, pay a couple million for postage, and then the orders come in and everything's great. Well, somebody in the data department screwed up as they were putting the mailing together. And normally they do this mailing for the top 10% of customers, the best of the best customers, the folks that buy like crazy, the top decile is who gets this catalog. Well, they screwed up, and instead of the top 10%, they got the 90 to 100%, which somebody thinking 90 to 100 is great, but no, actually that's the 10% worst, the people who never really buy one candlestick every 5 years kind of people. And so by mailing the bottom decile, it tanked the entire company. They ended up going bankrupt. Like the catalogs went out, none of the business came in. They didn't have the money to cover everything, and it completely burned the business to the ground. That was the end of the place. They had to close up shop. So that's they kind of selected the wrong button and burned
Yeah.
the whole place to the ground, which was
The
worst
the
of all.
chosen data was incorrect.
Yes, they grabbed the wrong select, and because of that one file,
Oof,
everybody lost their job.
that's brutal. Yikes. I mean, and that's the thing is like we talk about data quality as these 6 aspects, but when you bring it to that larger scale, it can have devastating business impact if you're not thinking about basic data quality. So you've covered, the 8 horror stories that you collected, and I feel like we've covered all of the the tenets of data quality. Um, when we were talking in the pre-show, you didn't feel like you had a good example for credible.
Yeah. Credibility is, we talked about it as far as validity. It's kind of
Mhm.
like how you grab the data. Is that correct? I mean, I did have, mailing the blacklist is burning your credibility, but that's not
Oh,
the
sure.
same thing. So, I mean, if you could give us an example of where you would see credible, how often does that come up, and what usually is that involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So Well, a couple of weeks ago, we did actually do a very quick example, which you can find at trustinsights.ai/YouTube. Go to the So What playlist. And we were able to show that our Google Analytics for data was not being collected in a credible way, despite the way that we had set up the system. We feel very confident with how the system is set up. It's one of the things that, we offer as a service to our clients. But despite that, we don't have control over the system. And so the data, when we took a look at it compared to, I forget exactly what we compared it to, but we were able to see that there was enough missing data, there was enough unusable data that it made it not credible and collected in a valid way. And so, think about your third party systems and the data that you're using to make decisions. Do you know the definitions of those data? Do you know if they're sampling versus pulling everything? Another really good example of this is survey data. So when Chris and I worked at the agency, one of the things that we used to do for the other teams was run the Google consumer surveys, which I loved. I love writing surveys. I love running surveys. You can do an employee feedback survey, any kind of survey. The challenge that we ran into is that a lot of teams would approach us and say, I want to run a survey. And I'd be like, great, let's talk about it. And they'd say, so my client has a headline that they want to run. I just need the data to back it up. That is not how you run a survey, because you're already going into the survey with a bias of how you want it to be answered. So therefore, you're asking questions that support the end result versus asking unbiased questions to find out what people actually think and feel about something. So that's a big thing in terms of credibility. So think about anytime you see a methodology statement or how we collect this data or how we use this data, that's where you would factor in credible. So a lot of it credible, really, it fits nicely with market research. How are you collecting the data? I like to joke with you and Chris and everyone that, like, I'm an N of one. I am not a representative sample. I am not enough data to say I represent this many people. And so that also is credibility, is if you're pulling a small sample of information, is it representative enough? Is it statistically valid in a way that it covers, me and you and Chris and Kelsey and our analytics for marketers, community? My one opinion is not credible enough to cover everybody. We need more information to say, okay, now this is how everybody's feeling about something. So that's, I could go on my soapbox all day about credibility, but it really is, especially when we're using third party tools like our SEO tools and our tracking tools. You have to think about, how is that data collected? Where are they getting it from? Are they inferring it using, now in the day and age of AI and machine learning? If they can't collect it, are they inferring it? Basically, are they sort of guessing at what it should be to make a complete data set? So those are the things that you really want to dig into.
That sounds good. Yeah, so it's funny. Chris is on his flight to London, but somehow he is still, he's either got enough bandwidth to check in or whatever. He put his backup process over in Slack for you. So he is
Oh,
reporting in and validating for us.
I, I will have to look at that later, but thank you, Chris. We appreciate that. So we've talked about the horror stories, and I feel like everybody has a horror story. It doesn't have to be something that took down a whole company. It doesn't have to be something that, got you fired. It could just be a small, niggly little thing. But the next question is, how do we fix this? How do we get ahead of it, especially when we're trying to use AI paired with wait, what did I just say? AI paired with our data. We want to have data that is ready. And so that's where things like, where did it go? The AI ready data quality audit comes in. And I am going to do a quick demo of this. And so, um, with the examples, John, that you were able to get from people, I think they were fantastic. What we didn't get is, we didn't get samples of the data so that we could say, and this is how we would fix it. So I am manufacturing another data horror story. And so the way in which I would try to get ahead of, the data slasher coming to murder me in my sleep is I would do something like use Google Colab. And I like Google Colab, and Chris has talked about Google Colab because I'm not someone who's about to sit down and write code in order to fix my data. I'm just not going to do it. It's going to take me way too long. It's a really poor use of my time. And I have access to Colab, which with our Google, we're a Google shop in terms of our workplace, Google Workspace. We have access to Google Colab. And people, I believe, can use a free version of Google Colab. So now that I've said Google Colab about 20 times, and I have sort of, much like Beetlejuice, invoked its presence into our data horror story episode, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new notebook. So when you open this system, when you open Colab, you are given this, conversation box, and I'm just going to click on new notebook, and it's just going to be fresh, maybe. What I'm going to do, and I need your help with this, John, is let's say I wanted to look at the SEO data for katierobert.com. I want to see if it's clean. I want to see if it's complete. I want to see if it's comprehensive. And so what I have, and people can't see because I'm sharing my whole screen. Let me see if I can fix this. I'm not as savvy with this stuff as Chris is. He is way more he's way better at this stuff than I am. Here we go. What I have is a set of instructions. And so the prompt: analyze the included data using the 6C data quality framework. And so this has already been written out. And this is what we can do for other people: is the 6C data quality framework clean? And it goes through a bunch of questions that you would naturally ask about the data. The thing that I have to do is what's included here, and what I always recommend people do, is have a sense of the 5 Ps. You following me so far? Is this confusing or is this straightforward?
No, we're right with you here.
Okay. So the 5 Ps: purpose, people, process, platform, performance. Purpose: what's the question you're trying to answer? What's the problem you're trying to solve? People: who is this for? Who's doing the thing? Who needs to be involved? Process: how are you doing the thing? How are you collecting the data? How are you using the data? Platform: what tools? So in this case, where did you extract the data from? Where is it going? And performance: what is your expected output? So this is all part of your prompt as well. So the first part of the prompt are the 6 Cs and the questions you would ask. The second part of the prompt is, your 5 Ps. So purpose: the intended user of this data is a business user preparing SEO reporting. Makes sense. People: the end user is non-technical. Process: the outcome from the end user is an SEO report explaining what happened in the company's SEO program for the last 60 days. The time frame of the data is the last 60 days. Platform: the tooling of the user is a spreadsheet and slide software. And then performance: process the data file and produce a detailed, complete, comprehensive audit of the 6C data quality framework, which again, that's the first part of the prompt up here. The final audit should include a document in Markdown format in an outline with a diagnostic of each of the 6 Cs and rating on a scale of 0 to 10 for each of the 6 Cs based on your analysis. What that means is Google Colab is going to take my data file, which I've already downloaded from Ahrefs, our SEO tool. Use whatever SEO tool you have or whatever tool you're looking at. And it's going to say, okay, based on this prompt, I have 6 aspects to judge this data file on. So out of a score of 60, how did it do? And it's going to go through piece by piece. And because I'm giving it the 5P context, it's going to know, can this person do what they're intending to do? Because otherwise, if you're just saying, is it clean and free from errors? Is there no missing information? You haven't given it the context for it to be able to answer that question. So you need to pair the 5 Ps with the 6 Cs. So now I feel like I've been talking a lot. You still following me? Do we still make sense now?
Yeah, this is it. We've got a prompt ready to run here. Are we
All
ready
right.
to get the magic happening?
We're going to get the magic happening. So again, all I have done so far is I have opened Google Colab and I have said new notebook. So what I have down here, just like any other ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Claude, is you have the chat window. This is where you put your information. So I'm going to upload a file, and I've already done this. This is on my machine. And you can put it over here in the side. You can upload the file into here and just select it from there. I'm just uploading it straight from my machine. I am keeping this as simple as possible. And now I am going to copy the entire prompt that we just talked through. I'm going to paste it into the chat box, and I'm going to hit send, just like you would any other system. The difference here is that Google Colab is going to write the code that another system would struggle to do and would probably ask you to do it for you. So it's gone through, it says, happy to help. And see, there it is. It's the helpful, people pleasing intern. Happy to help. I can analyze the data using the 6C framework. Colab is going to give you a plan, and it's going to say, I'm going to generate based on what you've asked. Here's what I'm going to do. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load the data. Then I'm going to analyze the cleanliness, the completeness, the comprehensiveness, the chosenness, the credibility, and so on and so forth. It's going to go through the actual 6C framework. It's going to generate the document. It's going to finish the task. And you're going to say, yep, that's amazing. Accept and auto run. Are you sure you want to auto run? Yep, I do. And then what you're going to see down here is this is the plan that it just outlined for you. It's going to go through step by step. So this might take a second, John. Hopefully not too long. While we're doing that, Chris is saying, you're doing great, boss. Thanks. It's funny. I'm very comfortable doing these kinds of technical demos. I'm just not comfortable doing them like I usually have everything prepared in advance. I'm sort of, I don't like to have it run live. So my little bit of nervousness is just making sure that the system doesn't crash because I want to be able to show people something. But so John, so you primarily are responsible for sales, new business. What kind of data do you think that we would want to run through, like a data quality audit that you use on a daily basis?
Well, the big thing is it's the whole CRM file, right? I mean, how many of those emails are good? How many have we talked to recently? That's the whole data pile that you live and die by every day. It's just a matter of what's in there. And yeah, if you can have a scoring system to help bubble up stuff to the top, and then something else too to clean out the ones that are garbage to try and in fact, that was one of the data stories that we had come in. Who was it that had that one? Sunny Hunt was talking about, she had a project where they deduped a record database from 7 million down to 3.5 million records in 5 months. So, that kind of stuff just goes straight to productivity in the bottom line. If you can clean the data up so that all the activity you're taking is, that's just when you're looking at a funnel diagram, you're doubling that point of the funnel if you can clean out that much junk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that makes sense. And you mentioned lead scoring. And so I think perhaps we can cover that in next week's live stream if you're game. So just as a little preview, one of the things that we did on a previous episode, while this is just about done almost. If you go to trustinsights.ai/YouTube, you and Chris actually walked through putting together a sales playbook. And the playbook is really comprehensive in terms of our services and our approach and the sales frameworks and all of those things. And so we put that together. And so now that exists. And what we don't have in our CRM at the moment is lead scoring setup. We haven't gotten around to doing it. We've been busy, servicing clients and speaking and being on the road and, doing things like what we're doing in Google Colab. And so it occurred to me to experiment to see, could I take our sales playbook and could I take what we know about what we can do in our CRM and marry those things together to come up with a plan for lead scoring? And the answer was yes. Now, is it valid? I don't know. I gave it to you to look over, so I'm still waiting for your feedback.
Yeah, and then the big question mark for us is, what does our CRM provider support, right? There's all kinds of different pricing. And unfortunately, our provider is a big fan of like, oh, every time you want to do something else, it's like, oh, well, you're going to have to run the credit card if you want to turn that on. So yeah, if there's enough there for us to kick around, I am definitely up for talking about that, because it's always interesting to see if you can pull some, quality leads out of the stack. But yeah, it's always a question of like, well, how much is it? How much you're really willing to pay for that stuff, Because unfortunately, the majority of that stuff is second tier, right? It's like the customers and prospects that come up and want to talk and have a deal to get done. You don't need scoring for those folks. You just work them
Mhm.
through the cycle and you go. So lead scoring is great for trying to find stuff that slipped through the cracks, but it's usually stuff that's not as warm. So yeah, it's never top priority, but it is, the larger you get, the more kind of money you can find hidden.
So, I think that it's a great segue back into data quality because you've just touched upon a lot of potential data quality considerations when doing lead scoring. So, we can talk about that next week. This week, we're talking about a data quality audit. And so now everything has run, you see everything is green. So I'm just going to go ahead and close that and take a look at what we've got. So, what it's been doing in the background is taking my data file. This is something else that, if you aren't aware, but you may have already run into this yourself, regular, I'm going to call them regular, large language models like a chat GPT or a Gemini or a Claude or whatever you're using, they are not great at reading CSV files or Excel files. They kind of struggle with that. Google Colab, because it's more of a developer focused tool, is the place where you would want it to read a CSV file. So that's what I gave it. And so what it's been doing in the background, as John and I have been chit chatting, is taking the prompt that I gave it to evaluate the data file through the 6 Cs paired with the 5 Ps, and it's going to give me the results. It's written the code for me. It's done in the background. I didn't have to do any of that. So take a look at what we have. So the task, analyze the data in the file using the 6C data quality framework. So it's done that. So it's gone through step by step, and we saw those green check marks happening. So it loaded the data. It take a look. This is sort of a snapshot of what it looks like and what the system was seeing. You see all the data. So step 1, analyze the cleanliness. So check for duplicate records, outliers, inconsistent formatting, so on and so forth. And so it did that. This is all the stuff that I was not interested in doing myself, that I'm happy to have the system do. And so it did all of those things. And so we can keep going. And so examine unique values. And so it basically checked through based on the prompt that I gave it for the 6 Cs of data quality. And so I won't bore you with all the technical details. Happy to answer those questions over in our free Slack community, Analytics for Marketers, Analyze Comprehensiveness. And so if we keep going, the thing that I'm most interested in is the end result, because what you get at the end is an audit document. So create a markdown document summarizing the data quality audit based on the 6 Cs. Score each C on a scale of 0 to 10. And at the end, you get this result. So I could take this document, paste it into a text file, and start to go through it, which is probably something I'm going to do. I can see at a high level, cleanliness, 8 out of 10, completeness, 5 out of 10, comprehensive, 6 out of 10, chosen, 7 out of 10. These are way higher than I thought they would be. Credibility, 8 out of 10, and calculability, 9 out of 10, overall summary. And so you have this information here, and then you get this really nice, easy to read summary. All of this work was done for us, John, while we were, kind of shooting the shit about lead scoring. This all happened in the background. So I have my diagnostic for each of the 6 Cs. I have my justification for why it was scored that way. And then what I also have is the more detailed finding and my insights and next steps. I have my roadmap of, if I want to increase the score, let's say it's 40 out of 60, and I don't want to use anything that's below a 55, I have my insights and next steps of what I need to do to fix the data. So when presenting this data to non-technical user, provide clear definitions for each SEO metric. Okay, great. Explore options for addressing the missing data in August, the crawled pages. So it's not a complete data set. That is a huge red flag. So if I was saying I need to make big decisions about my website and, I need to increase my SEO, my awareness, I need to do all those things, I would be using incomplete data. That's a big problem. So, again, I've just sort of like run through everything pretty quickly, but any thoughts on that, John?
Yeah, well, it's solid, right? It's a great way to just take the data file, throw it in there, and find out, where the red flags are, and you've got your kind of next steps to dig into and clean up. So, yeah, the big thing with this too is it's definitely a go no go report. You can see if you're getting ones and twos on everything, you're like,
Mhm.
okay, we have to totally go back to the drawing board. Like this is going to kill the whole project. Whereas if the scores here are actually pretty high, so I would be interested in like running the reports and see if the resulting reports kind of pass the smell test too. But
Mhm.
yeah, overall, it looks like it's a pretty solid file. It's not that angry with it at all. That's for sure.
No, not at all. It says the overall summary, the data set provides a valuable high-level look of website SEO performance, presented in a format highly compatible with a spreadsheet and slide software. It is generally clean and credible, likely originating from a reputable SEO tool. The chosen metrics are relevant for basic reporting. However, the data has significant limitations in completeness, it lacks comprehensiveness, and missing crucial granular data. And the data is also such susceptible to various forms of noise, which is chosen. So it's saying, yeah, you can use it. However, proceed with caution because these things could be a problem. So I just wanted to sort of give sort of the rounded, we talked about the data horror stories, things that can happen commonly to all of us, but there are ways to get ahead of it. So the AI ready data quality audit, which you can get more information at trustinsights.ai/AI data ready AI ready data quality. I've now said like certain words so many times that they've kind of lost meaning a little bit. It's not going to solve all the problems, but it is going to help you, especially with that horror story, John, that you told of I gave my data to AI and it just kind of like fell apart. It just kind of failed. You don't want to do that.
I feel like in classic horror form story, we've like laid everything out, and now things seem to be good again. I needed to have like somebody drag me off, like some last shock close, so we could get back to the fact that the data is always there and can always be a problem, but we can stick with the happy ending for this one.
All right. Any final thoughts? So you're gonna be Clark Kent, Superman for Halloween. What are your kids gonna be?
Uh, my son is going to be Nightwing. We've gone DC Comics this year, so it'll be Superman and Nightwing. My daughter is she had a 50s outfit that she had for school, but she's going as a Lorax tomorrow for trick or treat. So she has a
I
bunch of
love it.
friends that are all going to do it. So there'll be a pack of Loraxes. So yeah, we'll see how that one goes. She's always running with the pack, which is usually amusing. So we'll have to get some pictures and see how that goes.
I love it. Well, if you want to tell us about your Halloween costume or join tomorrow's question of the day, which is Halloween themed, you can join our free Slack community at trustinsights.ai/analytics for marketers. I don't know, John, I'm exhausted. I did more talking this week than I usually do. Chris needs to come back soon.
We need to get Chris back on. Chris is somewhere over the Atlantic, but still watching. Safe
All
land.
right. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching today. Be sure to subscribe to our show wherever you're watching it. For more resources and to learn more, check out the Trust Insights podcast at trustinsights.ai/TI podcast and a weekly email newsletter at trustinsights.ai/newsletter. Got questions about what you saw in today's episode? Join our free Analytics for Marketers Slack group at trustinsights.ai/analytics for marketers. See you next time.